The laughter echoed. It bounced off the polished chrome walls of the Grand Council chamber. It hit Admiral Elara Vance like a physical blow, but her face remained still. She watched the tall, multi-limbed Gireth ambassador. He wiped a tear from one of his 3 eyes. His body shook with mirth. Behind him, the crystalline Salker delegate giggled. Its normally stoic face rippled with amusement. Vance clenched her jaw. She felt the warmth of her own blood rise in her cheeks. The council speaker, a massive ancient Cathar named Xylos, cleared his throat. It sounded like grinding rocks. "Admiral Vance," his voice boomed, "your presentation is quaint, but a fleet of 50 craft, even if they are modular kinetic platforms, as you call them, against the 1,000-strong armadas of our joint defense pact. It is a child's toy. Is this a joke?" Vance saw Ensign Maya Sharma shift beside her. Maya's young face was pale. Captain Alex Thorne stood a step behind them. He simply stared at the Cathar with hard, unblinking eyes. He seemed to be counting the Cathar's many scales. Vance met Speaker Xylos' gaze. Her voice was steady. "Speaker Xylos," she said. "Sir, we are a young species. Our resources are limited, but our ships are designed for a purpose. A purpose you may yet understand." More laughter followed her words. It was a wave of scorn. Vance just stood there. She took a deep breath. A familiar smell of ozone and alien cleaning fluids filled her nose. She closed her eyes for a moment. She felt the heavy weight of the Council's judgment. She felt the hopes of her entire species. She opened her eyes. The laughter was still going. She knew one day they would not be laughing. The return trip to Sol Station was quiet. The small human transport ship, the Pioneer Asterisk, cut through the void. Inside, the air was thick with unspoken words. Ensign Maya Sharma sat strapped into her seat. She looked out at the distant pinpricks of stars. She kept seeing the Gireth ambassadors shaking shoulders. She kept hearing the speaker's booming voice. A tremor ran through her hands. She quickly hid them in her lap. She felt a deep, burning shame. It was not for herself, it was for humanity. "They called us a joke," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible. Captain Alex Thorne stood nearby. He gripped a stanchion. The metal groaned softly under his hand. He turned his head slowly. His dark eyes met Maya's. "They call us a lot of things," he said. His voice was low and rough. "They called me a reckless fool. They called our ships tin cans. They called our weapons glorified slingshots." He paused. "They're not wrong about the slingshots, exactly." He gave a small, grim smile. It did not reach his eyes. Maya looked down. She knew Captain Thorne had lost his family in a raid years ago. A raid that the grand alien fleets had failed to stop. She understood the bitterness in his voice. Admiral Vance stood at the forward view screen. Her back was to them. She watched the stars rush by. Her shoulders were set. She looked out at the infinite blackness. She remembered the council members. Their vast, powerful ships filled the docking bays of the council station. They were true behemoths. They were hundreds of meters long. They bristled with energy weapons. They looked like floating cities. Her own fleet, 50 ships, each one a bare 100 meters. They were mostly engine and weapon. They were nothing compared to those giants. But they were different. She reached up. She pressed a small button on the console beside her. A low chime sounded through the ship's intercom. "Commander Li, report to the bridge." A moment later, a calm, slightly accented voice replied. "On my way, Admiral." Commander Jian Li entered the bridge. He carried a data pad. His hair was disheveled. He probably had been working without rest. He had a slight tremor in his hands. It was from too much coffee. His eyes, usually bright with creative spark, looked tired. "Admiral," he said. He nodded to Vance. "Captain Ensign." He gave a tired smile to Thorne and Maya. Vance turned to face him. Her expression was neutral. "The council was unimpressed, Jian." She spoke his first name. It was a sign of their long working relationship. "They laughed at your designs." Li's eyes flickered. A flash of hurt crossed his face. He quickly masked it. He gripped his data pad tighter. "They do not understand," he said simply. "They see only size. They do not see speed. They do not see adaptability. They do not see the kinetic punch these ships can deliver." Vance walked closer to him. Her voice softened slightly. "Tell me again, Jian," she said. "Tell me what they are truly seeing. Tell me what they don't understand." Li cleared his throat. He started to speak with more passion. "Each Vanguard-class ship is a core. It is a spine of high-density alloys. We built them around a single, massive magnetic accelerator. It can hurl a 1-ton slug at 0.95 light speed. Imagine a bullet the size of a small shuttle, traveling almost as fast as light. It has no energy signature. It cannot be stopped by shields. It passes through them like they aren't there. He tapped his data pad. Images of sleek, sharp ships appeared on the main view screen. They were like needles. Their 1,000-strong armadas use energy shields. They rely on them. They fire energy beams. They are slow to reload. Our ships, we fire, we reload, we move, we hit hard. We are gone before they can react. And the modular part? Maya asked, her curiosity overriding her shyness. Li's tired face brightened slightly. Each vanguard can swap out its kinetic slug for other modules, drone swarms, EMP burst generators, even small, single-use, high-yield warheads. We can change our combat role in minutes. Their ships are fixed. One role, one weapon. We are fluid. We are unpredictable. He looked at Vance. His eyes pleaded for understanding. They build battleships. We built giant kinetic hammers. And we made them fast, and we made them smart. Vance nodded slowly. She walked past him. She touched the view screen. The image of a Vanguard ship was displayed there. She could almost feel the raw power of it. I know, Jian, she said quietly. I know they will learn. The Pioneer docked at Sol Station. It was a sprawling orbital habitat. It spun gracefully above Earth. Its inner levels hummed with activity. Green parks and bustling markets were housed under vast, transparent domes. But beneath the calm surface there was a buzz of concern. News of the Council's dismissal had spread. People felt the slight. Vance walked through the station's main concourse. People looked at her. Some offered sad smiles. Others gave tight, determined nods. She saw the worry in their eyes. She felt the weight of their silent questions. Would humanity be safe? Would they be respected? She knew her work was not just about ships. It was about proving humanity's right to exist among the stars. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Admiral Vance spent her days in the Central Command Center. It was a vast, circular room. Holographic projections of star systems and fleet movements filled the air. She coordinated drills. She tested new tactics. She worked with Jian Li to refine ship systems. He seemed to live in the shipyards. He often slept on a cot near the heavy machinery. The smell of plasma cutters and new metal was constant around him. One afternoon, Vance found him staring at a schematic of a Vanguard. He looked troubled. "What's wrong, Jian?" she asked. He sighed. "The magnetic accelerators, they are powerful, but they generate a massive electromagnetic pulse when they fire. It can affect our own ship systems. We've built in dampeners, but in rapid-fire scenarios," he trailed off. He rubbed his temples. "It's a risk, a small one, but in battle any small risk becomes a big one." Vance placed a hand on his shoulder. "We take calculated risks, Jian, always." Meanwhile, Captain Thorne pushed his pilots hard. They flew simulated combat scenarios. They practiced high-speed passes. They practiced tight formations. They practiced rapid target acquisition. He barked orders. His voice was hoarse. "Faster, Ensign," he yelled during one simulation. "That's a dead ship. You hesitate, you die." Maya was often at the front of these drills. She was a natural pilot. She had quick reflexes, but Thorne's intensity sometimes overwhelmed her. She felt the pressure to be perfect. She remembered his grim smile. She remembered the bitterness in his eyes. She knew he carried a burden. She wanted to prove herself worthy. She wanted to ease that burden. One evening, after a particularly brutal session, Thorne found Maya in the pilot's lounge. She was staring blankly at a blank wall. Her hands were shaking slightly. "You did well today, Sharma," he said. His voice was softer than usual. "You pushed through." Maya turned to him. I freeze sometimes. I worry. What if I make the wrong choice?" Thorne sat beside her. He leaned back. The synth leather couch creaked. "You make the best choice you can with the information you have. Then you live with it, or you die trying to fix it." He paused. He looked away. "Fear is a good thing. It keeps you alive, but don't let it paralyze you." His eyes grew distant. "I learned that lesson the hard way." He stood up. He walked away. He left Maya to think. She knew he was talking about his family. She also knew he would never tell her directly. Life on Sol Station continued. Children played in zero-G parks. Merchants hawked their wares in the hydroponic gardens, but the training never stopped. The human fleet was small, so every pilot, every engineer, every crew member mattered. They had to be the best. They had to be ready. One day, a sudden priority alert blared through the station. It cut through the usual hum of activity. Red lights pulsed. Voices on the intercom spoke with urgency. All personnel stand by for emergency broadcast. Vance rushed to the command center. Jian Li was already there. His face was grim. Thorne arrived a moment later. His hand was on the sidearm holstered at his hip. The main viewscreen flickered to life. It showed a chaotic scene. A dozen alien fleets were under attack. Not by known enemies, not by any ships ever recorded. The image was grainy, but it was horrifying. Swarms of black, chitinous vessels ripped through the alien warships. These vessels were not sleek or metallic. They were organic. They looked like giant insects. They moved with a horrific, unnatural grace. Their fronts glowed with an eerie green light. Then a pulse of energy would erupt. It would shear through a capital ship's shields. Then the black vessels would swarm. They would tear the ship apart, one piece at a time. The screams of dying alien crews filled the audio feed. "It's the Void Blight," a panicked voice reported. It was from the Council's communication hub. "It came from the Uncharted Dark. It consumes everything. It uses no known energy signature. Our weapons, they do nothing." Speaker Xylos's face appeared on the screen. He was no longer arrogant. His scales were dull. His eyes were wide with terror. "Admiral Vance," he pleaded. His voice was a harsh croak. "We need your help, your fleet, your kinetic platforms. Perhaps they can do something. We are being annihilated." He showed data. Vast swaths of galactic territory were turning dark. Entire star systems went silent. The blight was spreading. It was moving faster than anything they had ever seen. Its target was clear, the heart of the Council's defense systems, the very hub of galactic civilization. Vance looked at the screen. The images of destruction burned into her eyes. She saw the fear. She saw the desperation. She remembered their laughter. She remembered their scorn. But she also saw the lives. Billions of lives were at stake, not just alien lives. Human lives, too, if the blight reached them. Vance turned to Jian Li. "Can our kinetic weapons work?" she asked. Li nodded slowly. "Their shields deflect energy. Our slugs are pure mass. They carry no charge. They punch through." But he hesitated. "Their sheer numbers, we are 50 ships. There are millions of those things." Thorne slammed his fist on a console. "Then we hit them harder. We hit them where they don't expect it." Vance made her decision. Her face was grim. "Prepare the fleet, Commander Li. Full readiness. Captain Thorne, alert your pilots. Ensign Sharma, you're on my lead wing." She looked at the terrified image of Speaker Xylos. "Speaker Xylos," she said into the comms. Her voice was firm. "Humanity will assist, but we will fight on our terms. We will fight with our methods, and you will not interfere." Xylos nodded frantically. "Anything, Admiral, just stop them." The human fleet, the Sol vanguards, launched from Sol Station. They were tiny specks against the vastness of space. The ships were needle-thin. They were painted a matte black. They swallowed the light. They were almost invisible in the deep void. 50 ships, 50 kinetic hammers. They sped toward the heart of the conflict. The journey was tense. Communications were filled with increasingly grim reports. Entire fleets were wiped out. Planets were scoured clean. The Void Blight consumed all. Maya Sharma sat in the cockpit of her Vanguard. Her hands were tight on the flight controls. She felt a knot of fear in her stomach. She could hear Captain Thorne's voice in her comms. "Remember your training, Sharma. Fast in, hard hit, faster out. Stick to the swarm formation." She repeated the words to herself. Fast in, hard hit, faster out. They arrived at the edge of the galactic defense line. It was chaos. Thousands of alien ships, what was left of them, were scattered. They were retreating. They were trying to hold a line against an endless tide of black, chitinous horrors. Energy weapons flashed uselessly against the Blight's tough hides. The air around them was thick with distress calls. Vance's voice was calm in the comms. "All vanguards acknowledge target acquisition. Primary objective, Blight command nodes. Secondary, anything that moves." She paused. "And remember what we are. We are the tip of the spear. We are the hammer." The vanguards plunged into the swarm. They were like sharks in a sea of smaller fish. The first volley fired. 51-ton slugs streaked across space. They were invisible until impact. The kinetic rounds slammed into the larger Blight vessels. The impact was shattering. They ripped through the organic armor. They tore ships apart from the inside. There were no explosions, just sudden, violent fragmentation. Pieces of chitin and fluid flew into the void. The alien fleets, still trying to hold their line, watched in stunned silence. Their energy weapons did nothing, but these small human ships were destroying the Blight. Maya's vanguard, the Swift as she called it, danced through the chaos. She targeted a mid-sized Blight vessel, her targeting computer locked on. "Firing primary," she called out. The ship shuddered as the massive magnetic accelerator discharged. A blinding flash erupted at the muzzle. Then a silent hole appeared in the Blight ship. It was gone. It was just a space where the ship had been a second before. She banked hard. She dodged a wave of smaller Blight drones. They swarmed past her. They were like angry wasps. Thorne's voice came through. "Good hit, Sharma. Now use your micro-missiles on those drones. Clear your 6. Maya quickly switched weapons. Small, heat-seeking missiles launched from her ship's ventral ports. They weaved through the void. They exploded among the drones. They were more effective than expected. A massive Void Blight Hive Lord appeared. It was a monstrous vessel. It was kilometers long. It had multiple glowing green orifices. It was spewing smaller Blight ships. General Vorlag, a battle-hardened Cathar military leader, watched from his command ship. His ship was heavily damaged. He had seen thousands of his warriors fall. He had watched his energy beams fizzle against the Blight's armor. Then he saw the human ships. They were daring, they were reckless, they were impossible. He saw a tiny human ship, barely a speck, zip directly into the path of the Hive Lord. It was too small to be seen as a threat. It fired its kinetic slug. The slug ripped through one of the Hive Lord's glowing orifices. A sickening green goo erupted from the wound. The monstrous ship shuddered. It slowed. Vorlag's eyes widened. "They hit it," he roared. "They actually hit it." Back on Sol Station, Commander Li watched the battle feed. He saw the Hive Lord shudder. He saw his designs working. A small smile touched his lips, but his brow remained furrowed. "They are too exposed," he muttered to himself. He saw several vanguards were surrounded. They were under heavy fire from the Blight's energy weapons. The vanguard's shields were minimal. They were designed for speed, not heavy defense. He saw one vanguard take a direct hit. Its engines flared, it spun wildly. Its comms went silent. "Vanguard 27 down," someone called out in the command center. Li clenched his fists. Every ship was precious. Every life was precious. Admiral Vance saw it too. She saw Vanguard 27 fall. Her voice remained steady. "Vanguards execute formation Charlie. Disperse and regroup. Focus on the core structures of the Blight. We are not here for attrition. We are here to decapitate the beast." Formation Charlie was a risky maneuver. It spread the ships out. It made them harder to hit as a group, but it also made them more vulnerable individually. Thorne led the charge. His ship, the Fury Asterisk, was like a phantom. He weaved through the enemy. He fired his kinetic slugs with deadly precision. He targeted weak points. He had memorized the Blight's anatomy from the data feeds. He knew where to hit. Maya found herself alone for a moment. She was surrounded by a cloud of smaller Blight drones. Her micro-missiles were running low. Her ship's internal alarms blared. Warning lights flashed red across her console. A proximity alarm screamed. A massive Blight harvester vessel loomed behind her. It was preparing to engulf her ship. She knew she couldn't outrun it. She had one kinetic slug left. She had one chance. She remembered Thorne's words, "Make the best choice you can. Then live with it or die trying to fix it." An idea, reckless and desperate, sparked in her mind. She turned her ship. She flew directly at the harvester. She was an insect flying into the mouth of a monster. "Vanguard Swift, what are you doing, Sharma?" Thorne's voice roared in her ear. "Get out of there." Maya did not reply. Her entire focus was on the harvester. She aimed for its mouth. Its massive, fleshy maw was opening. Its interior was a glowing green. She fired her last slug. It was a shot in the dark. It was a desperate prayer. The slug impacted, not on the harvester's armor, but deep inside its throat. A grotesque, wet explosion tore through the creature. It convulsed violently. It spasmed. Then it began to tear itself apart. Green fluid spewed into space. The surrounding drones shrieked. They broke off their attack. They scattered. Maya pulled hard on the stick. She barely escaped the exploding debris. Her ship shook. Alarms screamed even louder, but she was alive. She had destroyed the harvester. Thorne's voice returned. It was filled with disbelief. "Sharma, you crazy fool. You actually did it? A wave of relief washed over Maya. Her body trembled. She had faced her fear. She had acted. And she had survived. The battle raged for hours. The human fleet, small as it was, became the fulcrum. The conventional alien fleets started to shift their tactics. They saw humanity's successes. They saw the vanguards targeting the Blight's vital organs. They saw the kinetic slugs doing what energy weapons could not. General Vorlag, after seeing several human vanguards make suicidal runs to destroy key Blight nodes, issued new orders. Focus fire on the humans' targets. Support their movements. The alien ships, once mocking, now fought alongside the humans. They provided cover. They drew fire away from the smaller, more vulnerable vanguards. It was an uneasy alliance, but it was an effective one. Back on Sol Station, Jian Li was a whirlwind of activity. He monitored every ship's performance. He relayed tactical data. He analyzed the Blight's new adaptations. He saw the Blight was learning. It was starting to move differently. It was trying to dodge the kinetic impacts. "Admiral," he called out to Vance. He had her on a direct comms line. "The Blight is adapting, their core structures are shifting, they are becoming more resilient. We need a new vector." Vance was in the thick of the fight. Her own vanguard, the *Defiance*, was a blur of motion. She dodged, she fired, she commanded. Her mind raced. "What do you suggest, Jian?" she asked. Her voice was strained. Li pulled up a new schematic. "Their communication nodes, they are decentralized, but they rely on rapid, sublight communication bursts between key nodes. If we disrupt those, we blind them. We break their coordination." Vance nodded. "EMP modules, can we deploy them?" Li hesitated. "We have a limited number, and the risk of self-interference is high, especially in such close quarters." Vance knew the risk. The EMP burst could disable their own ships, but if it worked, it would cripple the Blight. "Captain Thorne," she ordered. Her voice was firm. "Prepare your squadron for an EMP run. Target the densest communication clusters. Ensign Sharma, you're with him. Commander Li, patch the EMP charge schematics to Thorne's display. He'll need to know the blast radius." Thorne's squadron, 6 vanguards including Maya's Swift, broke formation. They sped towards the heart of the Blight swarm. This was the most dangerous maneuver yet. The Blight vessels were thick here. They were like a living wall. Thorne's voice was grim. "All right, team. This is a one-way trip for some of us. Go in fast. Deploy the EMP. Get out even faster. Do not hesitate. Do not look back." Maya took a deep breath. She could feel the vibrations of the surrounding Blight vessels. The air around her ship seemed to hum with their presence. She saw Thorne's ship ahead of her. He was fearless. She had to be too. They plunged into the swirling mass. Blight vessels clawed at their shields. Their small energy weapons spat green fire. Alarms screamed. "EMP deployment in 30 seconds, Thorne yelled. "Maintain formation, we need full effect." Maya focused. Her hands moved over the controls. Her ship lurched. A Blight drone had slammed into her port side. Warning lights flared. Minor structural damage. She ignored it. She pressed forward. 10 seconds, Thorne counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, deploy now. 50 small, disc-shaped modules launched from the vanguards. They were designed by Jian Li. They were compact EMP generators. They spread out in a precise pattern. Then they detonated. A blinding wave of pure electromagnetic energy rippled through the void. It washed over the Blight swarm. It washed over the human vanguards. For a terrible moment, everything went silent. Maya's console died. Her lights flickered out. Her ship was dead in the water. She was adrift in the heart of the enemy. She heard nothing. She saw nothing but the dim red glow of emergency lights. Panic clawed at her. But then a faint hum. Her system slowly flickered back to life. Li's dampeners had worked, not perfectly, but enough. She saw Thorne's ship, the Fury *, also rebooting. The other vanguards were also coming back online. But the Blight, it was different. The EMP had hit them hard, their coordination shattered. Millions of vessels, once moving as one, now spun wildly. They collided with each other. They drifted aimlessly. Some even attacked their own kind. It was chaos. The Blight was blind. It was deaf. It was disoriented. "Now," Vance's voice roared. It was filled with triumph. "Now we hit them. All vanguards target their core nodes. This is the push. This is the end." The human fleet, battered but unbroken, renewed their assault. They fired their kinetic slugs into the confused, uncoordinated Blight vessels. They targeted the largest, most vulnerable targets. They tore through the enemy. The alien fleets, watching from a distance, were stunned. General Vorlag saw his sensors. The Blight's massive numbers were plummeting. Their coordination was gone. He looked at Speaker Xylos's horrified face on a nearby monitor. They broke them, Vorlag whispered. The humans, they actually broke them. Xylos, for once, had no words. His ancient Cathar face was pale. He saw the small human ships still fighting. They were relentless. They were furious. They were humanity. The battle raged for another hour, but the tide had turned. The Void Blight, unable to adapt, unable to coordinate, was being systematically dismantled. The remaining alien fleets joined the fray with renewed vigor. They used their energy weapons to mop up the scattered, confused Blight drones. The humans were the tip of the spear. They had carved a path. They had shown the way. Finally, the last major Blight node was destroyed by a combined volley of human kinetic slugs. A final, silent shudder went through the entire Blight swarm. Then they simply ceased to be. The void was quiet once more, only the wreckage remained, and the silent, stunned awe of the galaxy. After the last Blight ship was destroyed, the human fleet gathered. They were damaged, they were exhausted, but they were victorious. Maya's ship was patched up. She felt a profound weariness, but also a deep sense of pride. She saw Captain Thorne's ship dock. He walked out of his cockpit. His face was streaked with grime. He looked tired. But there was a new light in his eyes. He saw Maya. He gave her a nod. It was a nod of respect. It was a silent acknowledgement of her bravery. Maya felt her chest swell. She had passed his test. She had passed her own test. Admiral Vance's asterisk Defiance docked at the Sol station. The entire station was buzzing. The victory had been broadcast. The impossible had happened. The small human fleet had saved the galaxy. As Vance stepped onto the landing platform, she was met not by her usual quiet crew, but by a throng of people. They cheered. They waved. They hugged each other. They lifted their children to see her. It was overwhelming. But it was also a wave of warmth. It was the love of her people. She saw Jian Li smiling widely. He had tears in his eyes. He hurried to her. Admiral, it worked. They all worked. My beautiful hammers. Vance reached out. She squeezed his shoulder. They certainly did, Jian. You saved us all. Li wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. He looked less tired now. He looked like a man who had seen his life's work validated. Days turned into weeks. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. This time it was not for mockery. It was for gratitude and for understanding. Admiral Vance stood before the Council once more. But this time, Speaker Xylos bowed his multi-scaled head to her. General Vorlag, his stern Cathar face softened, offered a formal salute. The Gireth ambassador did not laugh. He looked at her with genuine awe. Admiral Vance, Speaker Xylos boomed. His voice was no longer scornful, it was respectful. We were wrong, terribly wrong, your fleet, your people. You fought with a courage and cunning we had never imagined possible. You saved us all. He paused. Your child's toy of a fleet, it shattered a threat that decimated our mightiest armadas. Vance nodded. Her face was calm. We are a young species, Speaker Xylos. We learn fast, we adapt. And when our backs are against the wall, we fight with everything we have. We use every tool, we use every idea, no matter how unconventional. She looked around the chamber. The faces of the alien delegates were different now. There was no scorn. There was respect. There was even a hint of fear. They saw humanity not just as saviors, but as a formidable, unpredictable force. A week later, Vance met with Jian Li and Alex Thorne in her office on Sol Station. The holographic map of the galaxy glowed softly. It showed new, friendly diplomatic lines connecting human space to many alien empires. The Council is requesting our assistance in rebuilding their defense systems, Vance said. They want us to help design new ships. They want to learn our kinetic weapon technology. Li practically bounced in his seat. This is it, Admiral. Our chance to truly integrate, to share our knowledge, to show them our ingenuity. Vance smiled at his enthusiasm. Thorne, however, was more reserved. He stared at the map. His eyes were still hard. They're asking for help, but they're also probing. They want to know our secrets. They want to understand how we did it, so they can counter us if they ever need to. Vance's smile faded slightly. She looked at Thorne. You're right, Alex. Trust is a slow, hard-won thing. It's not given freely. Not after what they saw, not after what we did. She looked from Li, whose face was filled with hope, to Thorne, whose face showed caution. Humanity is no longer a joke, Jian. We are no longer quaint. We are a power. And with that power comes a new kind of responsibility and a new kind of danger. Maya Sharma, now a decorated lieutenant, was put in charge of the new Vanguard pilot training program. She worked tirelessly. She taught the new recruits the lessons she had learned. She taught them courage. She taught them resourcefulness. She taught them to trust their instincts. She taught them that small can be mighty. She taught them that sometimes the most unconventional path is the only one that leads to victory. She still felt the fear sometimes, but now she knew how to channel it. She knew how to turn it into strength. Jian Li was given almost unlimited resources for his research. He designed new variants of the Vanguard. He explored new forms of kinetic propulsion. He worked with alien engineers. Many of them had once scoffed at him. Now they listened. They absorbed his every word. He began to bridge the gap between human and alien technology. He shared his knowledge freely, but he also carefully guarded humanity's unique advantages. He learned which secrets to share and which to keep. He learned that true innovation often came from overlooked places. Captain Thorne continued to command the Fury *. He led patrols. He helped map the remnants of the Void Blight. He ensured no lingering threats remained. He still carried his personal grief, but the victory had given him a new purpose. He saw the respect in the eyes of the alien officers he now worked alongside. He saw the change. He still trained his pilots with ruthless intensity. But now, when he spoke to them, his words were less about bitterness and more about the power of human ingenuity. He knew that their future was not just about protecting Earth. It was about defining humanity's place in a complex galaxy. Admiral Vance stood on the observation deck of Saul's station. She looked out at the vastness of space. The human fleet, still 50 strong, now patrolled a much wider sector. Their presence was known. Their reputation was established. The galaxy had laughed, but then they had watched. They had watched humanity's small, unconventional fleet face down an unstoppable terror. They had watched humanity win. Vance knew the galaxy was still a dangerous place. New threats would emerge. Old prejudices might resurface. But humanity would face them. They would adapt. They would innovate. They would fight with cunning. They would fight with everything they had. The laughter had stopped. The galaxy had learned to respect humanity. And Vance knew this was only the beginning of their story among the stars. The tiny fleet had opened a very large door.